Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, what the White House says it's going to do with the oil tanker seized Wednesday off the coast of Venezuela. And President Trump touting his tariff strategy while the White House criticizes Biden-era media coverage of inflation. Mario Tsu reports. Proposals from Senate Republicans and Democratic leadership to address the expiring ACA healthcare credits have failed. Rank-and-file Republicans are open to compromise for a short-term extension as long as Democrats commit to serious reforms. Luis Martinez on Capitol Hill. Receiving both strong praise and criticism, Homeland Security Secretary Noem testifies on Capitol Hill. Jason Blair has the takeaways. And Washington state is under a state of emergency following days of heavy rain and flooding. Tens of thousands of residents could face evacuation orders.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here's Tiffany Meyer.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. The White House saying the administration will be following a legal process with the oil tanker seized off the coast of Venezuela Wednesday. And President Trump hailing his tariff strategy and lowered inflation, while the White House criticizes Biden-era media coverage of inflation. We now go live to NTD's Washington correspondent Mario Tsu at the North Lawn of the White House. Mari, good evening.
Tiff, good evening. Yes, the White House today is saying that it plans to take that tanker that authorities seized yesterday off the coast of Venezuela to an American port where U.S. authorities will then intend to take full possession of its oil cargo, and that the administration will do so following a strict legal process. Press Secretary Leavitt adds that the U.S. currently has a full investigative team on the ground on that vessel, and that individuals on board are being interviewed to collect any relevant evidence. She reiterates that one of the Trump administration's priorities is to crack down on what she calls the narco-terrorism of rogue and illegitimate regimes around the world. Take a look.
There are two things that are very important to this administration. Number one, stopping the flow of illegal drugs into the United States of America, which we know has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. The president promised on the campaign trail that he would demolish the foreign terrorist organizations and drug cartels around the world, especially right here in our own hemisphere, and you have seen that he is delivering on that promise. With respect to the oil and what happened yesterday, the Department of Justice requested and was approved for a warrant to seize a vessel because it's a sanctioned shadow vessel known for carrying black market sanctioned oil to the IRGC, which you know is a sanctioned entity.
This is coming as the Trump administration today imposes new sanctions on three of Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro's nephews, a businessman close to the Maduro regime, and 6 companies shipping its oil. And this is all amid a massive military buildup in the region. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio is thanking President Trump's leadership for sanctioning what he calls Maduro's narco nephews for illicit activities that hurt Americans and destabilize the entire region. And meanwhile, just a couple days after President Trump took his messaging on affordability and his economic agenda to a rally in Mount Pocono, Pennsylvania, the White House is highlighting an expected extra $1,000 in tax refunds next year per filer, attributing that to President Trump's tariff strategy. It's also touting the lowest gas prices in 5 years and lowered inflation, while also criticizing Biden-era coverage of inflation. Press Secretary Leavitt today says that the previous administration brought inflation to a record high 9%, but that it wasn't scrutinized, she says, like it is being now. Take a look.
With respect to affordability, every economic metric, Caitlin, and I wish you would report more on it, does in fact show that the economy is getting better and brighter than where it was under the previous administration. I will repeat, inflation as measured by the overall CPI has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. Real wages are increasing, roughly $1,200 for the average worker. There's a lot more scrutiny on this issue from this press corps than there was. Well, and the previous administration said that too. My predecessor stood up at this podium and she said inflation doesn't exist. She said the border was secure, and people like you just took her at her word, and those were two utter lies. Everything I'm telling you is the truth, backed by real factual data, and you just don't want to report on it because you want to push untrue narratives about the president.
And this is coming just a day after President Trump said that it's imperative that CNN be sold to new ownership, calling its current leadership dishonest. Tiff, back to you.
All right, Mari, thanks for those updates. The Senate voted against both the Democratic and the Republican proposal to address the expiring COVID-era Obamacare tax credits. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has the details on this story.
On this vote, the yeas are 51, the nays are 48. Not having voted in the affirmative, the motion is not agreed to.
51 senators voted in favor of the Republican proposal that would have allowed for the ACA healthcare tax credits that right now go directly to insurance companies to go directly to consumers. Republican leadership has opposed any clean extension of the ACA healthcare tax credits due to massive fraud found in the program.
Was found by the Government Accountability Office, an entity and agency that Democrats love and support, found that 90% of the accounts that were set up in the Obamacare exchanges were fake. Fake.
The Democratic proposal, which simply seek to extend the Affordable Care Act healthcare tax credit subsidies for 3 more years with no reforms, also received 51 votes, with 4 Republicans joining Democrats. Both bills were short of the 60-vote threshold needed to pass in the Senate.
The Republican bill is not true health care reform. It is not a health care plan whatsoever. It is junk insurance. The Republican bill is simply junk insurance.
You can't just do a blanket extension without reforms. It is rife with waste, fraud, and abuse. It's been driving up insurance premiums for people in this country at 3 times the rate of inflation, and so you've got to have some reforms to make this work.
Moderate Republicans, both in the House and the Senate, have proposed a compromised 1- or 2-year extensions as long as Democrats commit to reforming the subsidies.
If we can figure out some way to get the extension in place, I believe it's definitely got to be on the table next year.
And a lot of the ideas that you're going to see on the Republican side coming from leadership, I think have merit. Certainly, I'm in favor of PBM reform, health savings accounts, association healthcare plans, various other ideas. Are any of those things going to become law and help people by the time of this cliff? It's coming at the end of the year. No.
The Affordable Care Act healthcare tax credits expire at the end of the year, and Democratic leadership has not been open to any reform of the subsidies. The House of Representatives will likely vote on their proposal before the Christmas break. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
The Indiana Senate today voted against a new congressional map that would have favored Republicans. This marks the latest episode in the nationwide redistricting battle.
All right, the machine is now closed. Clerk will tally the roll. 19 ayes, 31 noes. This bill has been defeated.
Despite having a 40-10 Republican supermajority in the chamber, the new map failed to pass. 21 Republicans joined all 10 Democrats in voting against the map. The redrawn map would have given Indiana Republicans all 9 of the state's U.S. House seats. That's 2 more compared to what they currently have. The Trump administration has been pushing for a new map in Indiana as part of a nationwide battle to redraw electoral maps. Indiana is the first Republican state to vote down the initiative. Texas, North Carolina, Missouri, and Ohio have redistricted in favor of the GOP. California also redrew its districts in favor of Democrats. Republicans and Democrats are separated by just 3 seats in the House, and redistricting could determine control of the chamber in the 2026 midterm elections. Republican lawmakers expressed strong praise for Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, while some Democrats asked her to resign. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has more from Noem's testimony on Capitol Hill.
What keeps me up at night is that we don't necessarily know all of the people that are in this country, who they are and what their intentions are.
Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was questioned by members of the House Homeland Security Committee. Many Republican members praised and thanked Noem for the work that the department has been doing, while many Democrat members had harsh words, some even calling for Noem's resignation.
I represent a district that's half of the southern border. Our lives were turned upside down under Joe Biden, and now we have our lives back due to President Trump and due to the policies that y'all are executing. So thank you.
You cut programs and withheld congressionally appropriated money to prevent terrorist attacks and prepare for natural disaster. you eviscerated the Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, which was supposed to keep DHS from violating Americans' constitutional rights.
18,000 known or suspected terrorists got into this country under the Biden administration. That's why we impeached Mayorkas. I was one of the managers. He told his Border Patrol, you don't have to pay attention to federal law when it says shall detain aggravated felons. He disregarded federal law and says, you know what, may detain. It's discretionary.
Madam Secretary, your incompetence and your inability to truthfully carry out your duties of Secretary of Homeland Security. If you're not fired, will you resign?
Sir, I will consider your asking me to resign as an endorsement of my work.
Noem responds to quotes that Rep. Michael Guest read from authorities that compared ICE to the Gestapo of Nazi Germany.
The words that these elected officials have used to describe our law enforcement officers are horrific, shocking, and unacceptable. We are seeing the consequences of those words every single day by the violent attacks.
When asked about criminally operated weaponized drones, Noem says that the DHS does see them regularly and countering them is one of the department's top 3 priorities.
We've seen the cartels using weaponized drones against each other. We know it's only a matter of time before we see that here on the homeland. My job is to make sure that we're prepared.
Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
Washington state is under a state of emergency today. Torrential rain has pushed rivers over their banks, leaving residents trapped in floodwaters. Tens of thousands could face evacuation orders. Here's more on the heavy rain that is devastating parts of the Pacific Northwest.
Officials are advising about 100,000 people to evacuate certain areas of Washington state. An atmospheric river is causing heavy rainfall, flooding, and mudslides.
The situation is extremely serious. The next few days are going to be very critical.
The governor says he declared a state of emergency since some rivers could reach historic levels. Video shows water rescues in multiple areas.
I found myself stuck on a little piece of land out there with my 4 cats. And had to wade through water up to my chest in order to get to dry land. It was very cold and very swift.
In South Central Washington, shelters are caring for some rescuees.
So what we're doing right now is we're providing obviously shelter beds, meals, dry clothes, a place for their pets.
Officials say at least 2 major mudslides have blocked parts of I-90. This Seattle area gas station is damaged.
A lot of sand.
And in Northwest Washington, sandbag volunteers are shoring up an old dike system along the Skagit River.
At a time like this, it's all hands on deck.
Forecasters say dangers will continue into Friday.
The impact on Washingtonians is significant now, and it's going to be significant in the coming days, and that is an understatement.
Coming up, a judge orders the release of Salvadorian illegal immigrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the latest on the case at the center of the Trump administration's deportation efforts. Luigi Mangioni's defense makes an open court objection that reveals some private conversations the attorneys have had with the judge. Arlene Richards has that legal update. The first in-person court appearance of the suspect in Charlie Kirk's murder. Kirk also working on a book before his assassination, his widow continuing his mission. David Lamb brings us that story when we return. Welcome back. President Trump is signing an executive order to establish a national rule book to regulate artificial intelligence. He previewed the move earlier this week on Truth Social, saying if the U.S. wants to lead in AI, it can't have 50 states each making their own rules. Let's take a listen.
Traffic by sea is down 92%, and nobody can figure out who the 8% is because I have no idea. Anybody getting involved in that right now is not doing well. And we'll start that on land, too. It's going to be starting on land pretty soon. Thank you, Peter.
Mr. President, in Indiana, just a few moments ago, the Senate there rejected the congressional maps to redistrict in that state. A number of Republicans voted against that redistricting effort. You have spent a lot of time talking about this. The Vice President traveled to Indiana. What's your reaction?
Well, we won every other state. That's the only state. It's funny because I won Indiana all 3 times by a landslide, and I wasn't working on it very hard. Would have been nice. I think we would have picked up 2 seats if we did that. You had one gentleman, the head of the Senate, I guess, Bray, whatever his name is. I heard he was against it. He'll probably lose his next primary, whatever that is. I hope he does, because he's done a tremendous disservice. I mean, think of it. It's a great place. I love the people there. They love me. You know, we won in a landslide all 3 times. Got tremendous votes. I got record votes. And then there's no reason for doing that. And the Democrats do it to us, so I can't imagine that they do it. But I wasn't very much involved. But there's a man named Bray, as I guess, head of the Senate. Was that Bray? Is that the name? Bray? I mean, I'm sure that whenever his primary is, it's, I think, in 2 years, but I'm sure he'll go down. He'll go down. I'll certainly support anybody that wants to go against him.
Well, if I could ask you briefly about on AI and then a question on Ukraine. On the AI side, the flip side of what you've done today is what kind of agreements you can get with China, particularly on the national security threats posed by AI. During the Biden administration, there was a vague agreement on not using AI in the nuclear weapons complex. Tell us what you envision and what conversations you've had, if any, with President Xi on that topic.
Well, relative to AI?
Yes.
I speak to him a lot about it. I speak to him a lot, actually. I have a very good relationship with him, as you know. If you had another president, you would have had a big rare earth problem, and it turned out not to be a problem. They're purchasing tremendous amounts of the soybeans and our agricultural products now. We're getting along with them very well. No, we talk about AI quite a bit. We talk about everything quite a bit.
Well, do you have specific guardrails you're trying to put together with them?
One of the things I talk to China about is the denuclearization of weapons. We'd like to see if we could stop that.
You mean arms control, not
I'm talking about nuclear weapons. I've spoken to China about that. I've spoken to Russia about that. And I think it would be something that we would want to do, and they would like to do, and I think Russia would like to do.
They've said they won't join New START or a follow-on to New START.
Well, that's what they've told you, but you know what they tell you is different than what they tell you.
And on Ukraine, Mr. President, just briefly, you made a commitment to the Europeans back in July, if I remember it right, to participate in some kind of a peacekeeping force should there be a peace agreement. You mentioned, I think, air support, intelligence, and so forth. Does that commitment still stand? Is the U.S. ready to go contribute to this?
It's called the security agreement, basically, that they call it, the security agreement. Yeah, we would help. We would help with security because it's, I think, a necessary factor in getting it done. I thought that we were very close with Russia to having a deal. I thought we were very close with Ukraine to having a deal. In fact, other than President Zelenskyy, his people loved the concept of the deal. You know, we threw something out.
This is the 4-part deal.
Well, there's 4 or 5 different parts. It's, you know, a little bit complicated because you're cutting up land in a certain way. It's not the easiest thing. It's sort of like a complex real estate deal times 1,000, right? But it's a deal that would have stopped the killing of thousands of lives every month. Thousands and thousands of lives, mostly soldiers, but as you know there's some bombs being dropped.
Sort of a career-linked ceasefire that we don't resolve?
Well, there's a meeting on Saturday. We'll see whether or not we attend the meeting. We said we'll attend the meeting if we think there's a good chance of they want me to attend. They want us to attend. And we'll be attending the meeting on Saturday in Europe if we think there's a good chance. And we don't want to waste a lot of time. We think it's negative. We want it to get settled. We want to save a lot of lives. As you know, in the past we spent could be $350 billion given it to Ukraine. You know, we got nothing in return, but we gave it to Ukraine. I ended up getting rare earth in return, even though I didn't spend money. And we are now selling weapons to NATO. We're not selling it to Ukraine. We're selling weapons at full price to NATO, as you know. They distribute those weapons probably to Ukraine for the most part. They're probably doing it to others also, but we're not involved in the war other than the fact that we are involved in a negotiation because people want us there. Ukraine wants us involved very much. Europe wants us involved. I have a great relationship with the countries of Europe. As you know, I took GDP. I took what they're spending as a percentage of GDP, but it was at 2 and they weren't paying, and now it's at 5, and everybody's amazed. But that 5% is a lot of it's coming back to the United States. With that being said, I'd like to see the killing stop. 25,000 people died last month, soldiers, mostly soldiers, but some people also where bombs were dropped. But for the most part, 25,000 soldiers died last month. I would love to see it stop. And we're working very hard. It doesn't really affect the United States unless it got out of control. You know, a thing like that, as you probably know, because you are a professional, a real professional, which is something I don't say about a lot of other people, but you are a great professional. Things like this end up in third world wars. And I told that the other day. I said, you know, everybody keeps playing games like this. You'll end up in a third world war, and we don't want to see that happen.
Mr. President, can you confirm that you have appointed a general to lead the stabilization forces in Gaza? What will be his mission, and how soon do you want to see?
Well, we're working very strongly on Gaza. Yeah, we're working very much on Gaza. We actually do have a real peace in the Middle East. We have 59 countries supporting it, which has never happened before. We have countries that want to come in and take care of Hamas, as an example. We have countries that want to come in and take care of Hezbollah in Lebanon, as an example. And I say, right now, you don't have to do that. You may have to do that, but we have countries that are volunteering to come in and literally take care of the whole thing. We have a great peace in the Middle East. It's never happened before. And I think it's very strong, actually.
And with Prime Minister Netanyahu, you're supposed to meet him every month. What's on that?
Well, we get along with him very well. He's been a wartime prime minister, certainly. We did a big thing when we went in with this very plane right here, this beautiful plane. We went in with those B-2s, and now I can use the word because it's been confirmed by the Atomic Energy Commission, we obliterated their nuclear capability, their potential. And their nuclear capability would have been there in about 2 months. I think it looked like it was, some people say 2 weeks. I don't know if it's 2 weeks, but a very short period of time. They were very close to having massive nuclear weapons. And these guys went in and they did a job. And that made peace possible because everybody was afraid of Iran. And now they're not afraid of Iran anymore. And Iran would like to make a deal with us.
Your own national security strategy does not say obliterate, sir. It says set them back. Your intro does.
Well, the Atomic Energy Commission said obliterated, and the people that have seen the site said obliterated. And frankly, Iran said it was obliterated. And to show you how accurate it was, and I fight for the pilots because the pilots of those people went in there at great risk, and they hit every single target on every single bomb. And they did a lot of damage. And for them to be given anything less than 100% of the credit is unfair. So I will tell you, the Atomic Energy Commission said it's like gonzo. It's one person actually used the term obliterated. But Iran actually said that they probably can never go there again. They can probably never start there again. If they ever started, they'd probably choose a new site. But regardless, we took out the Iran nuclear site with great talent. No other country could have done that. No other country has weapons like we do, but no other country could have done that. We have the best weapons in the world. We have the best military in the world. And when we took out Iran, that allowed for peace. There's no way that, and I really have great respect for the King of Saudi Arabia, for the Emir. I'm friendly with UAE. These are great people. These are actually great people and great leaders. There's no way they could have done a deal if Iran was not really nullified to a large extent. Iran is not the same country. Iran was a country that was feared by everybody. Now it's a country that's been very much downgraded. I'm sure they'll try and come back, and they're very capable people. Maybe they will, maybe they won't.
They are reconstituting their missile program quite quickly.
Well, they can try, but it's going to take them a long time to come back. But if they do want to come back and they want to come back without a deal, then we're going to obliterate that one too. We can knock out their missiles very quickly. We have great power, and we helped Israel a lot. We were shooting down the drones. We were doing a lot of things for Israel. We did a good job for Israel, but Israel did a good job. They fought, and they all fought bravely. Look, that's a war. That's a vicious war. They're all vicious wars. When you write, hey, you covered a lot of wars. They're all vicious. We never saw a nice one, right? They're all vicious. But that was a big fight. But the big thing was the knockout of the possible nuclear capability. And it was a complete knockout of nuclear capability. That doesn't mean that over the next 2 years or 3 years, not going to come back or not going to try. I think they got hit so hard. They may talk about trying, but I don't think they want to try. And I can tell you that they would love to be able to make a deal with me. They would love to be able to make a deal with me. And I'd love to make a deal with them if we could. You know, we were not close, but not so close, but we were reasonably there for a deal with Iran before the bombing. And they would have been much better off if they made a deal. They could have had a deal. They could have had a deal where they would have been much better off. Look at what we've done. I mean, their place is blown up. Forget about the nuclear. The nuclear is gone, but look at the damage they've suffered, the death that they've suffered. They could have had a deal with nobody would have died, no buildings would have been down, nothing would have happened. We would have blown up their nuclear. That would have been it. They could have had a great deal, but they missed that opportunity. But they would like to make a deal right now. Iran would like to make a deal with me.
Mr. President.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Do you think the Senate should confirm your nominee for Religious Freedom Ambassador, Mark Walker, in time for Christmas, as you know, a Christmas gift to Christians around the world?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've heard good things about Mark. Why has something come up that I don't know about?
Well, he was nominated in April, and he still hasn't received even a.
Well, I'd like to see him. I mean, I'm hearing very good things about him. So I thought by asking that question, you know, something new came up. You know, there's breaking news about Mark Walker. No, yeah, I'd like to see him. I've always found him to be a high quality person. Yeah, I'd like to see that happen. I will say John Thune, though, has done a good job. He's approved. He's gotten hundreds of people approved. You know, we have a roadblock with the Democrats. They're just obstructionists, that's all. That's all they're good at is obstructing. They're not good at creating. They're only good at obstructing and wanting open borders and men and women sports and transgender, all things that transgender for everybody, all things that people don't want. And they're obstructionists. You know, they're doing that with health care. We have a great health care proposal where we pay all of the hundreds of billions of dollars that the insurance companies have been making. You know, their stock is up 1,700%. And by the way, the stock market today hit another high. 52 times we hit a high in a 10-month period. That's during my second presidency. And it's been amazing. Nobody's seen anything like it. You know, we had the greatest economy in history in my first term. I think we're blowing it away right now. I think we're blowing it away. And again, prices were the highest they ever were. Inflation was the highest in 48 years, or I think ever. They say 48 years. The press says 48 years. I'll accept that, but I think it was the highest inflation we've ever had under the past administration. We had the highest prices. We have high inflation, you have high prices. Prices are coming way down. Energy's coming way down. Gasoline is hitting now $1.99 in a couple of states, and it's way down. Gasoline is way down. And when gasoline and energy comes down, everything follows. But prices are coming down, and we have an unbelievable economy. 401ks are setting a record. 401ks that's owned by a lot of people because they're based on the stock market. And the stock market for his 52nd time has just hit a brand new high. So it's amazing what's happening. And I will say this, our country is respected again. I think we're respected like never before. The United States is respected again. We have a country that was a dead country 1 year ago, dead. And now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, press. Thank you.
You can call.
Thank you, press. Let's go. Let's go.
Let me know.
Thank you, press. Let's go.
You can call me.
Thank you, press.
Yeah.
Thank you, press. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, press.
Thank you, Peter.
Moving, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, yeah, we got to sign. Let's get a picture. Come on. Oh, let's get a sign. Let's get a good picture. Pulitzer Prize. This is going to be a Pulitzer Prize picture.
Absolutely.
Let's give him the Pulitzer Prize. He's in that. Do you like this guy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I do. Everybody likes Albert, right?
Yeah.
No auto pen necessary. That's a whole big deal, isn't it? Well, what's that all about? Okay. Who am I giving this pen to, David? Who am I giving it to?
How about Cyril?
You're right.
Thank
what
you,
a
sir.
job he's done. That's a good choice. Thank
That was
you very
nice.
much. I almost gave it to Howard.
And that was President Trump taking questions in the Oval Office before signing an executive order to establish a national rule book to regulate artificial intelligence. And Disney just signed a $1 billion deal with OpenAI, letting its AI tool Sora make videos with Disney characters. As AI moves into entertainment, lawmakers are taking steps to protect artists and the public from its risks. NTD's Christina Corona tells us more.
Disney is taking a big leap into artificial intelligence. The company signed a $1 billion deal with OpenAI. Disney CEO Bob Iger told CNBC Thursday that the deal allows OpenAI's Sora tool to generate videos using characters from Disney, Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars.
We're licensing about 200 characters for users of Sora to create their own, basically, videos using Sora and those characters. We are not including name and likeness, nor are we including character voices.
Starting in 2026, fans will be able to make their own AI versions of scenes using these characters. The deal comes as Hollywood workers warn that AI could cut jobs, dilute original storytelling, and threaten artists' control over their work. But Iger says this does not pose a threat to the creators of the characters.
In fact, the opposite. I think it honors them and respects them, in part because there's a license fee associated with it. The other thing it does is it enables us to be comfortable that OpenAI is putting guardrails essentially around how these are used.
But some states are now trying to get ahead of the risks. In New York, Governor Kathy Hochul signed the nation's first AI transparency laws for entertainment on Thursday. Ads must disclose when synthetic performers appear. Another law protects a person's name and likeness after they die. SAG-AFTRA says these steps are essential. They argue AI is growing too fast with too few guardrails and could exploit performers without their consent. In California, OpenAI is stepping into state politics with its first ballot measure aimed at regulating AI chatbots like ChatGPT. Their proposal, called the AI Companion Chatbot Safety Act, would require basic safety rules including age verification and parental controls to limit children's exposure. But the measure is facing competition. A nonprofit, Common Sense Media, has proposed a stricter plan called the California Kids AI Safety Act. It includes tighter limits on how AI can interact with children, stronger privacy protections, and education programs to help kids understand AI. If both pass, only the one with the most votes takes effect. Christina Corona, NTD News.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia has been released from a Pennsylvania detention center following an order from a federal judge today. This is according to his attorney's office. Abrego Garcia has been in the spotlight during the Trump administration's deportation surge. U.S. District Judge Paula Zinnes says the administration lacks a lawful order to effectuate a third country removal for Abrego Garcia. Her opinion today reads, quote, since Abrego Garcia's wrongful detention in El Salvador, he has been redetained again without lawful authority. Her order requires Abrego Garcia's immediate release and for the administration to notify the court of his status by 5 p.m. Abrego Garcia is a Salvadoran native who was previously deported to a mega prison in his home country. He was since brought back and is facing human smuggling charges in the U.S. The Trump administration also says Abrego Garcia is part of the violent MS-13 gang. The Department of Homeland Security says the order to release Kilmar Abrego Garcia lacks any valid legal basis. For legal analysis from Jim Trusty, former attorney for President Trump, tune into Capitol Report with Steve Lance. That's tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Today is day 6 of the evidentiary hearing in the Luigi Mangione case. The defense increased its pressure on the prosecutor and witnesses over evidence obtained in the case and released to the media. NTD's Arlene Richards, who was in the courtroom today, has more.
The lead defense attorney in the Luigi Mangione case on Thursday seemed to be scolding the judge and the prosecution in a lengthy public objection. Before the proceedings began, the attorney Karen Agnifilo openly objected to the release of the crime scene video that the prosecution released on December 9th, the anniversary of Mangione's arrest. She called it highly prejudicial to her client. Agnifilo said it was released to the public by the prosecution despite being asked not to release it. The video served no law enforcement role in capturing the perpetrators. She described the video as lengthy footage showing graphic detail of the December 4th crime scene. According to Agnifilo, the sole explanation given by the prosecution for the release was that it had been released by the New York Police Department, which she said wasn't true. Judge Gregory Caro said he didn't see a problem with the video being released and that he would treat this video the same as all of the other videos during the trial. Lieutenant William Hanley then took the stand. Hanley was the most senior officer at the McDonald's where Mangione was arrested. He's the officer who approved the search of Mangione's backpack. The defense is challenging the search as unlawful. Hanley said the search was incident to arrest, so it was lawful for them to search Mangione's person as well as his personal belongings. Body cam footage and prior testimony show that Mangione's bag had been moved several feet away from him before he was placed under arrest. The defense contends that officers can search only items that are within an individual's reach. Hanley said the backpack was at Mangione's feet when officers first approached him. Therefore, it was something he had within his reach before it was moved. The lieutenant and a second witness, Detective Sergeant John Burns, both provided testimony countering the defense's position that several officers violated Mangione's constitutional rights. For example, defense attorneys argue that officers treated Mangione as if he were a homicide suspect when they searched his backpack because they were looking for a gun. Hanley said it doesn't matter what the reason is for the arrest, the entire bag would still be searched. And in the case of an individual who provides a fake license, they would be looking for a gun. The prosecution is expected to call more witnesses involved in the arrest. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
The suspect in the murder of Charlie Kirk makes his first in-person court appearance, and Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, recently discussed her husband's legacy and book, along with the challenges their team faces. NTD's David Lamb reports.
The alleged suspect in Charlie Kirk's murder has made his first in-person court appearance Thursday.
I recognize Mr. Robinson in the courtroom as well.
Part of the hearing focused on transparency and what should or should not be sealed to the public, as the defense attorneys say that media attention and electronics in the courtroom could interfere with the right to a fair trial. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson from Utah has been charged with aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious injury, along with other offenses. He arrived in court with restraints on his wrists and ankles, wearing a dress shirt. His family members sat in the front row. Conservative thought leader Charlie Kirk was shot and killed during his event at Utah Valley University on September 10th. Robinson, the suspect, allegedly fled the scene of the shooting, prompting a massive manhunt. He surrendered on the night of September 11th. Kirk was 31 years old and was married with 2 children. Many people honored Kirk for his work in speaking with university students, but some have celebrated his assassination, which his wife, Erica Kirk, condemns.
What do you say to people who justified his death? He's a human being. You think he deserved that? Tell that to my 3-year-old daughter.
Erica Kirk has plans to pursue justice for her husband and continue his work at Turning Point USA despite challenges.
My team are not machines and they're not robots. They are human. We have more death threats on our team and our side than I have ever seen. I have kidnapping threats. You name it, we have it. And my poor team is exhausted. And every time they bring this back up, what are we supposed to do? Relive that trauma all over again?
Erica Kirk recently discussed Charlie's final book, which was completed a month before his assassination. She said the book, Stop in the Name of God, Why Honoring the Sabbath Will Transform Your Life, will impact millions of lives by simply encouraging people to take the time to detach from electronics.
At first, it started with an hour, 2 hours, but then once he fully incorporated it into his life, he totally elevated. He became a next level husband, which I didn't even think was possible because he was already so incredible to me and the babies.
Erica Kirk, a Christian, publicly forgave the suspect at her husband's memorial, but says she has no plans to speak with him. David Lamb, NTD News.
Multiple U.S. cabinet members meeting with Ukrainian President Zelenskyy today, talking about a peace proposal for Ukraine. Another high-ranking U.S. delegation could meet with European partners this weekend.
The administration has spent more than 30 hours, just in the past couple of weeks, meeting with the Russians and the Ukrainians and the Europeans and speaking with them as well.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying the U.S. is engaged with all sides of the Russia-Ukraine war. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy says he met with a high-level U.S. delegation on Thursday. Zelenskyy says the American side was represented by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. According to Zelenskyy, Ukraine had a constructive and in-depth discussion with the American team on one of the 3 documents they are currently working on, the one on security guarantees. Zelenskyy went on to say that security guarantees are among the most critical elements for all subsequent steps to avoid another Russian invasion in the future. Zelenskyy added the teams agreed to work together to ensure that there will be a clear understanding of the security guarantees in the near future. U.S. officials might also meet with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz over the weekend. That's according to Merz, who says a peace proposal put forward by European nations was sent to President Trump.
We suggested to President Trump that we finalize the documents together with the American government over the weekend.
Leavitt was asked whether the U.S. is planning to send a delegation for a meeting this weekend.
If there is a real chance of signing a peace agreement, if we feel like those meetings are worthy of someone on the United States' time this weekend, then we will send a representative.
She added that President Trump is tired of meeting just for the sake of having a meeting, saying the White House now wants to see real progress in the peace process. Merz says there is one element that is especially important.
The main issue is what territorial concessions Ukraine is prepared to make. However, this is a question that must be answered by Ukraine. We made this clear to President Trump.
And the finance minister of Ireland suggests Europe is moving forward with plans to use frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine.
We will take measures to immobilize on a longer-term basis Russian assets. I think that's an appropriate thing to do.
Russia calls the move a manipulation, which it says will not go unanswered. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
In the Middle East, heavy rains caused major flooding in the Gaza Strip, where many people are living in tents. And as Israel and Hamas prepare for phase 2 of the Gaza peace plan, an analyst says Hamas may continue fighting and not give up their weapons. NTD's Jason Perry has the details.
Residents in the Gaza Strip on Thursday were seen trying to clear away flood water after Storm Byron hit the territory. A local resident said her family was sleeping when the storm hit.
Rainwater and water flooding from the streets woke us up. As you can see, water is falling on us from all directions from over the tents, and all our mattresses are wet. You see the water and sand on the floor. My little daughters were screaming and were surprised when they saw water on the floor.
Another resident shared his thoughts on the situation as well.
We have been calling the civil defense since last night and got no answer. No one received our call, and the same with the municipalities. No one is answering. We want any side to come and rescue us.
According to President Trump's Gaza peace plan, a board of peace will soon be able to help coordinate relief efforts to the humanitarian issues that Gaza Strip residents are facing. Once put in place, the Gaza Board of Peace will coordinate the delivery of humanitarian assistance, facilitate Gaza's development, and support a technocratic committee of Palestinians responsible for day-to-day operations of Gaza's civil service and administration. President Trump on Wednesday explained who will be on the Gaza Board of Peace.
It'll be one of the most legendary boards ever. Everybody wants to be on it. Basically, it'll be the heads of the most important countries. It wasn't really planned. We thought we were going to get very distinguished people that do that kind of thing for a living. But really, it looks like it's turning out to be they want to be on the heads, the kings and the presidents, prime ministers. They all want to be on the Board of Peace.
He added that there will be an announcement early next year about which world leaders will serve on the Gaza Board of Peace. Meanwhile, a senior consulting fellow at Chatham House said there may not be peace anytime soon. Phase 2 of the Gaza peace plan calls for the disarmament of Hamas, but he said Hamas may not give up their weapons.
what happens if they decommission all their weapons and no one protects them. So they need also some guarantees. Otherwise, what's in there for them, then they can keep fighting.
Phase 2 of the Gaza peace plan is set to begin after Hamas terrorists return the body of the final hostage, Ron Gavili, from the Gaza Strip. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Coming up in college football, the saga-fired Michigan coach Sherrone Moore has taken quite a turn. Dave Martin joins us to discuss when we return. And now for your sports news, we're joined by NTD's Dave Martin. Dave, we have NBA and NFL news, but let's start in college football because yesterday we had that breaking news that Michigan fired head coach Sherrone Moore. Now, the story took off last night a lot. What is the latest here?
Yeah, we knew he had been fired for what the school said yesterday was an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Now, not long after that announcement, Moore was arrested, this is last night, as a suspect in an alleged assault. Now, as of today, he's still in custody. Now, the Washtenaw County Prosecutor's Office told ESPN they didn't expect a decision today on whether to file criminal charges against Moore. Now, some details here on the arrest. Yesterday, Pittsfield, Michigan police released a statement saying they responded at 4:10 p.m., quote, for the purposes of investigating an alleged assault. A suspect was taken into custody. This incident does not appear to be random in nature, and there appears to be no ongoing threat to the community, end quote. Now, Moore is expected to be arraigned tomorrow, according to the Pittsfield Department of Public Safety. So that is where things stand right now. So I feel like there's almost more questions right now than answers at this point. But maybe we'll have those answered soon, too.
Absolutely wild. Elsewhere, though, in college football, the Big 12 recently fined two of their teams, Iowa State and Kansas State, for declining bowl game invitations. Now, this seems to be a growing trend in the game.
Yeah, it really does. Now, Notre Dame as well did too after their disappointment of missing out in the playoffs. Iowa State and Kansas State, though, both going through coaching changes, so maybe that's somewhat understandable. But there were a number of teams with a 5-7 records that declined them as well. I think the playoffs have really turned the bowl games into more of a consolation prize. Now, even before the season, it was definitely a growing trend. If a team had to settle for a bowl game, the players who were looking to be drafted into the NFL generally were not playing, not wanting to risk injury in what they saw as really an inconsequential game. Now, I would bet the bowl games will start to incentivize the players more by offering maybe NIL money to the winners. I mean, much like they've done with these early season college basketball tournaments. So this is something I'm sure the NCAA is going to address after the season. My guess, too.
All right, well, shifting gears to NBA news, the Oklahoma City Thunder beat the Phoenix Suns last night to push their record to 24-1 this season. Where does this rank as far as best starts in league history?
It is tied for number one. That's tied with the 2016 Golden State Warriors. Now, Golden State that year actually started off 24-0 before losing their first game. They went on to win an NBA record 73 games that year. Of course, they ended up losing in the finals in 7 to Cleveland. I think the bigger story is how much the Thunder this year are winning by. Now, last year, they actually posted the largest average scoring margin in NBA history at nearly 13 points a game. Right now, though, their average scoring margin is 17.5 points per game. That would smash their old record. Now, their next game is Saturday against San Antonio. Thunder have won 16 straight games. So, Tiff, they are on a roll, all right?
All right, well, moving to NFL news, the Pittsburgh Steelers announced today that All-Pro defensive end TJ Watt is in the hospital after experiencing a lung situation.
Yeah, the Steelers said Watt experienced discomfort at the team's facility yesterday. He ended up spending the night in the hospital where they're evaluating his lung. Now, regarding his playing status for Monday night's game against Miami, head coach Mike Tomlin said it's still up in the air. Now, Watt, one of the best pass rushers in the league, former defensive player of the year. Steelers, meanwhile, are clinging to a one-game lead over Baltimore in the division, and winning the division really represents their best chance at the playoffs. Meanwhile, tonight in the NFL, Thursday Night Football has the Atlanta Falcons playing at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That game starts at 8:15 Eastern Time. So, Tiff, don't forget to set your fantasy football lineup this year. We got the
already
playoffs.
said it.
Oh, very good. All right. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. Well, Dave, as always, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you too.
And that's all for today's news. Round-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Good night.